Valencia sound. What am I doing?
I don't know. What are you doing, Larry Mastropieri?
Valencia Reserve.
I
Gosh, I don't know
clicked
which one.
to go live, and I'm always trying to get the Instagram one to. Oh, there we are. Just trying to give equal opportunity for everyone out there who wants to watch. It was interesting. Speaking of watching stuff, yeah. Oh, yeah, we're on. Right before, I was just thinking about this. So there's a window, obviously, right here, and while I was working yesterday, it got really windy, and the two-story building that's across from me had a cleaning crew. Guy's up on the roof. He's got the power washer. He's going right along the edge, washing stuff. And I should have taken a picture because there's a palm tree right next to him, and it's blowing so hard. The thing is like bent over like this, and I'm sitting there like, do I take a picture or do I call 911? Because I'm just like waiting for this guy to get blown off. But no, you know what? He stayed on. So I don't know who you are, sir, but good for you. That was unnecessary, but at least you can laugh it off because you made it through the day okay. As Elon Musk does day after day, seeing as his Tesla vehicles and stations and dealerships are getting burned in protest over the Department of Government Efficiency. Before we dive into that, Larry, I have to ask you, how's your Tesla? Is it okay?
My Tesla's great. I've had it
no
for
spray painted X's or swastikas or whatever else they're thinking about.
I pulled up to.
Because I thought about you. I mean, when I see the stations getting burned to the ground, I'm like, uh-oh.
I've been left alone. I've been left alone. Yeah.
Good. Well, good.
Yeah.
Obviously, these are interesting times once again. And we had talked about some of the areas where the Department of Government Efficiency, also known as DOGE, has been looking to try to save money on the annual federal budget. And it was interesting to me because it was like real estate, where there's all these government properties across the U.S. that may or may not even be used or used in a minimal capacity. And I was like, wow, what a great idea. I mean, if they're not being used, what the hell are we holding on to them for? Appreciation, really? Not everywhere is like South Florida that you just automatically anticipate things going up. But there are buildings there and they appear to be on the chopping block. So hold on to your seat, Larry. Things are getting a little dicey here as the U.S. General Services Administration recently released a list of non-core federal properties that could be sold or repurposed. This is according to the South Business Journal. Had a nice write-up last week. These properties have been identified as underutilized or too costly to maintain. While the list was briefly removed from the GSA website, officials have confirmed it will be republished soon. Excuse me, signaling that these sales are likely moving forward. All right, so here we are. We have 4 properties, Larry. 3 of them are in Miami. 1 of them is in West Palm Beach. So I'll leave it to you. Where do we want to start?
Let's start in West Palm Beach.
All right.
84,000 square feet, occupied by the U.S. Social Security Administration and Navy Research Branch, right?
Which, I mean, and what research are you really doing? I mean, I get it. I mean, it's like, regardless of what you think of the administration stuff, can we at least be objective enough to look at this and be like, did you really need 84,000 square feet of prime real estate to do whatever you're not doing?
I have no clue, right? I just have no clue. It's interesting. This location's pretty sweet, right? You have it, right?
Right down. Yeah, I have pulled up. It's like right in the middle of downtown.
Yeah, I'm going to present my screen here too in a second. Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know. Do you have it on you?
Oh, I do. I didn't want to take it away from you. This is what you do. You like sharing the screen. So
that's all I do on this one.
All right. So here we are in beautiful downtown West Palm Beach. Hey, that's not me. That's you. All right, man.
Remove me.
We're on a roll here. Now, come on.
Great. We're doing great today.
Hey, you know what? It's Thursday. And
that was a sneak peek of what we're going to talk about later.
That's right, as we always do. So here we are. This is downtown West Palm Beach. You got Banyan Boulevard. You got Clematis Street, which is obviously in the more popular areas of downtown West Palm. So bear in mind, I mean, this is prime real estate. I mean, I may not be a Larry Mastropieri here, but I know enough to understand that it's probably valuable. And you have the Social Security Administration office and what was the other one? The Navy Research Branch. No idea what research they're doing there, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not much.
Well, somebody's going to be upset about that.
You know what? Hey, and you can write, email, message. If I'm wrong, believe me, I'll be the first to admit it. But I see a huge, bland building that's just sitting there.
Oh yeah, I know this building. So I know this building super well, right? They're building all that dirt across the street is up for construction soon.
I was gonna say, we're by the are we by the new Vanderbilt campus?
We're right by the Vandy campus.
That's what I thought, right?
South of there. Yep.
That's like, yeah, right to the south.
Just south. So. Yep. So maybe that could be a part of that Vandy campus, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they'd be perfect for them. I mean, they're looking to build and expand. It makes sense. You know, I really do hope for the benefit of our country, you know, aside from, you know, laying people off, which, you know, I certainly sympathize with people who are having to go through with that. At least this is one way that would seem like a very helpful way to try to get our budget balanced.
Yeah.
So yeah, there it is, right in the middle of downtown West Palm. So
while we're talking about that, I'm actually going to look up the age of that building. I'm curious how old it is. I'm curious if they're going to tear it down.
I mean, come on.
Right.
Considering how they've been revamping so much of that area anyway, you can't leave that there. Why does every federal building have to look like the most boring, bland piece of architecture of modern history? I mean, you know, like it's so underwhelming. You see a federal building usually.
Let's see what they say about this. Hold on. View property record. 1972 building. Could be torn down.
All right. Well, I'm sure they'll find somewhere to relocate the Social Security office. I guess there must be some other types of legal offices there that, you know, they must rent out space, I would hope.
Yeah. This is and the assessed value.
Oh, wow.
Look at those prices there.
That's a lot.
Total market value, 61 million. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dirt. How much dirt is this? Let's see. Hold on. Had it here. It's
175 is what it's saying.
But hold on. It's almost 7 acres.
Right in the middle of downtown West Palm Beach.
7 acres. That's a lot. That's a lot for downtown. There's tons of either current potential with this or redevelopment potential. I mean, 7 acres. That's a huge thing. Huge project.
Which again makes you wonder how many types of properties like this are available in every major city across the U.S. that might just be sitting there. Like, I don't think everything is, you know, some sort of federal conspiracy to try to screw us over. I mean, I guess I'm an optimist like that, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of the same difference when people, you know, are always saying like the media are out to get them and everything else. I'm like, no, if you ever worked in media, I can tell you, it's like you're giving them too much credit. You know what I mean? I just think it's just pencil pushers and people that just like aren't even paying attention and are asleep at the wheel. And you end up with waste like this that has been sitting there since 1972.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's my rant.
Yeah. This is a big deal. I'm very curious to see what this actually trades for, right?
Yeah.
How they go about that. I mean, we have a listing right down the street, literally two blocks.
Oh, that's right. That one that's a $5 million one, right?
Yeah, they just adjusted the price, so $4 million right down the street. Literally blocks walking distance from that building. So yeah. Yeah, this is great. I mean, there's development projects happening all around this thing. So we'll see what's going on. Who do you think's going after that? You think that's you think Green is all over that right now?
Oh,
Jeff Green.
I was going to say, are we just going to name off the usual suspects here?
Yeah, Stephen Ross.
Well, and I guess, and what's more interesting about that particular piece of property, because unlike any of the others, basically in the U.S., this is in Trump's backyard. So, if there's a deal to be made, who's to say he might not buy it? I mean, could he? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
So, but maybe.
Yeah. So, trying to trim the fat of the annual federal budget. I don't know if it can be achieved, but we're sure as heck going to try by selling off a bunch of bland federal buildings that are just sitting there in prime real estate locations.
Boring buildings. Yeah. So we won't go into the Miami stuff.
Oh, you don't want to talk about Miami? I mean, one of them's like a fat chunk of Brickell.
Oh, interesting.
Brickell, that's what I was saying. I was looking at them on the map. I mean, it's the same difference. We're talking about in the heart of Miami. They're just there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Huge buildings.
What baffles me, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but what baffles me is how, why has this never even been discussed before? You know what I mean? Like, even if you're a crook, trying to make a buck off it, you're telling me you couldn't set something up and try to skim off the top when you're, selling off this real estate and call it savings?
If Trump's businesses bought any of these, there would be so much.
Oh, I know. Which knowing him kind of makes me think he'll do it just because.
Oh my God!
He'll turn into a Tesla dealership.
All right, that's what I was going to say. It's going to be Tesla headquarters and Trump investment properties. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It'll be another Trump Tower next to the world's largest Tesla dealership.
Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, this is pretty serious.
All right. So if we're not going to talk about these incredible federal buildings in Miami, just know that 3 of them are on the chopping block as well. And hopefully, however it plays out, it will be to the eventual benefit of all federal taxpayers like you and me. So we got a lot of other things going on in West Palm Beach. We have the Cleveland Clinic expansion, which is, it looks nice. I was looking at some of the sketches of the, the concepts, and obviously having quality healthcare in South Florida is important because traditionally this is where people come during their golden years. So they're usually the ones that are much more in need of necessary medical facilities. I think that's good to have. The Cleveland Clinic, if you didn't know this, Larry, is known for being ranked #1 in heart care for the last 30 plus years, and has been serving Palm Beach County for a long time, mostly through their outpatient centers. Now they are making a major investment to expand their services. What do you know about this?
I mean, this is just yet another new development. It's like every week we're talking about West Palm Beach is doing this, Vanderbilt campus, Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah.
Just go down the list. New development here, new condo building there. It's just yet another huge movement in the expansion of South Florida. It's just keeps happening. Just so much investment is coming here, right? They said they raised already $100 million for the facility, which is wild. I think their target is about 500 million for the raise, which is just huge numbers, right?
Yeah.
They talked about also, they already have a presence here in South Florida. They talked about the project here. Where is it at? They're going to expand. They're expanding their outpatient. They're quadrupling their outpatient space in City Place to include chemotherapy, concierge medicine, imaging, and outpatient surgery. So they're 4Xing their current location and then building this proposed location brand new from scratch, right? They've acquired land to do that. And it's not too far. It's in downtown-ish, right in the heart of West Palm, right? Which is just wild. So to your point, this is just more infrastructure in West Palm on top of big time universities, like expensive condos. It's just crazy.
I kind of laugh because, the other day I needed some of our, not the footage we've accumulated of downtown West Palm and the skyline and everything. And I already feel like, and this footage is less than 2 years old, and I already feel like it's too dated, that there has been so many changes along the skyline that when you see the shots and everything looks nice, but it's like, wow, pretty sure there's a new building there. I know that one there is finished, and I know they're doing something. I mean, just like, it's crazy.
It's awesome. It's awesome, especially for those who have invested in West Palm, like myself, from like 2010 to 2020. Like
Quit bragging.
This is huge. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just buying stuff. Yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah.
So obviously there is a expected economic impact when it comes to major healthcare expansions in a given area. Historically, they tend to increase property demand, obviously. You mentioned all the time. I mean, I can see it on listings and stuff when it's, you see these houses, like what's great about living here. And it's, it's like healthcare facilities, top notch, a block away, next door, across the street, whatever. How much easier does it make it for you when you're trying to sell a home to let them know that quality medical facilities are right there?
I think it just further supports the demand for property more so than like, oh, we're buying because we're next to the Cleveland Clinic. Maybe sometimes, but I think it's just everything you need is available in South Florida, right? And it's just becoming more and more of that being 100% true. So it's just and Florida in general. I mean, we talk about the guys we listen to from Orlando and other parts, any of these like big cities, but South Florida is just the amount of investment is just insane. It's just wild. And these are the important things. Like we see condo buildings going up, wealthy condo buildings, right? Over and over and over again. We talk about it, but this is like an infrastructure project, which is great. We want to see more big employers, more infrastructure type projects happening, which creates a stickiness to our residents and our economy, right? I think that's why this project is super exciting. So,
yeah, it makes me wonder who's backing a lot of these investments. So, I mean, you mentioned guys like Jeff Green, obviously related Ross. I mean, Steve Ross. It's like, are those handful of figureheads? It's like, are they bankrolling this entire renaissance, if you will? Because that's what it feels like.
We were talking about this in Boca as an example with another client of ours, and there's like probably 3, 4, 5 massive projects that are just kind of hanging out. And we were talking about as soon as that one big project in downtown kicks off, the others will likely follow very quickly, right? And so I think with Jeff Green and Ross and some of these other guys, related companies, like all these guys, I think they're just kind of feeding off each other's energy, right? And so, and certain people are taking certain risks and they're proving out business concepts. Okay, we know we can sell X for this, or we know demand for this is that because he did it down the street. So the second these things start happening in different areas, you can kind of be like, okay, our business plan feels very safe to execute on, right? Mm-hmm. And so that goes for like what we talked about, the condos in Pompano, like all those luxury condos that Related just keeps putting one next to another. Their business plan is solid. They're selling the condo building next door. They know what they got for that. And so they know they can do it again over here. And it's just super easy for them. Just go do that again over here. And so the business plan feels pretty secure, assuming everything remains even keel, right? So continues to grow like it has. So yeah.
And what's amazing is it just keeps going. You know what I mean? I figured at some point you would kind of like hit a spot where it drops off. It's like a movie franchise when you keep making sequels and when the return gets less and less, at what point you're like, all right, I think Vin Diesel's too old. We can't make another Fast and Furious. All right, guys, stop it.
I think what we have here and what the big developers and big players who are investing in the area are seeing is we have limited land to build on, and so you can't really build too much. So inventory is limited overall, which is supporting pricing or keeping support for pricing pretty strong. And then on top of that, we have the demand. The people continue to relocate here, and again, you build a Cleveland clinic. You do you make sure Spirit Airlines doesn't go into bankruptcy or gets out of bankruptcy. You have all these employers that are here. Those are bad examples. There's better examples than that. But like,
it's the same idea.
It's the same idea, right? You continue to see this drive for more people relocating for economic reasons, because we're becoming more economically strong versus a vacation location, right? Yeah,
that's a good point.
So
staying in Palm Beach County and limited land, 10 acres of Palm Beach County went to auction. So in case you were wondering, this was at the end of February 26th to be precise. The Palm Beach County Housing Authority auctioned off just under 10 acres of land west of Boynton Beach. Now, this property, valued at just under $3 million, was zoned for single-family homes, but with a special permit, it could also be developed into townhouses. So the land is nestled between Quentin Avenue and a canal, surrounded by single-family neighborhoods, townhouses. I was just looking at it on a map. It's part of a larger 20-acre forested area, so making it probably the last forested area in Palm Beach County. It seems like. Larry, what did you think when you saw this?
I think, yeah, it's so true. There's like no more.
I mean, there's like, where are the woods, really?
Yeah.
Without going to the Everglades.
Hold on, let me show my screen here. Oh, that's a new one. Look at us. All right. Here we go.
Wow. There.
So this is an aerial of the location. I mean, you have good demand for the CRA, or the housing authority has owned this for, I don't know, 30 years or more, and they haven't executed on anything here. And so there's a higher and better use than what this is being used for, unfortunately, even though we want to protect the environment. There's not going to be a forest here much longer, probably. So I think, they probably could use those dollars elsewhere. And they'll likely work with whomever they sell this to develop something that improves the community, whether that's affordable housing of some sort, which is what they initially had planned for this, right? Or something that's like a live local project of some sort, possibly, where they're adding housing more than just the housing they've kind of spec'd this for, right?
Well, you talk about, I don't know if it's a coincidence. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I'm looking at the map here, and
there you go.
What do you have right to the right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's that mall that they were going to, do all these new projects on. So you got this land right here and this land right here. I'm sure it was a coincidence that they're doing all of this right now.
Exactly. So, this is just more support. Again, it's just like things just keep happening here. More money, more investment, more new projects. There's money to be made by these big developers in this area because the demand for housing is so strong. And so this is the time to get this project done. And the CRA didn't execute on it, and they probably found the better route was to sell it to somebody who will execute on it. And what did they deem it as? They deemed this as surplus land, right? So clearly they
had last surplus land in Palm Beach County. Yeah, I guess unless, when you kind of get north, around Jupiter, maybe, but even there, oh man, I mean, seriously, it is like the last forested area. All right, no, we got a little bit up here. Okay. But anyway.
Well, we're about to talk about basically the last farmland in Boynton too, right? That after that they're developing on. It's just like more and more every time we turn around.
Yeah.
But like Boynton's going to be a different place in 15 years, right? A completely transformed place. If all these projects that you and I have talked about over the past, however long on this podcast, it's going to be completely different. There's going to be thousands and thousands and thousands of more humans living in that city, which will only support better restaurants, more amenities for people. I'm a proponent of it. I think it's great. I know there's people that
it's
cringe
progress.
at me
It's going to
saying this right
happen.
now. Yeah, it's progress and some people don't love that. They like the old charm of South Florida, but it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So
right.
Might as well like it.
Well, enjoy the new charm.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we have going on here? We have, yes, like you just said, over 500 homes planned in Palm Beach County, which is Boynton really in this case, with starting prices at over $1 million. Suddenly, just when I see all the listings you have and stuff, suddenly it scares me to say it. It's like 1 million doesn't even feel like that much. You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's becoming the norm. And you said yourself, what the median in Palm Beach County is like 600 now.
Yeah. And GL loves their waterfall entrances.
Yes, they do. And Valencia, anything.
This is yet another Valencia. GL has been using this Valencia brand for well over a decade, 20, 30 years, maybe at this point, 20 years. Yeah. So this is yet another Valencia project for GL, and they've had incredible success, right?
I'm calling it right now. If they build a Valencia in Boca, it will be called Valencia del Boca. Bank on it.
So this is the future site of Valencia del Mar, right? Yet another piece of farmland along 441 and Lyons. I mean, they've pretty much built everything on this corridor over the past 30 years. So yeah, Valencia Reserve. We could just go down the list. Half these places are named Valencia. So
are they all 55 and ups?
Valencia Grand.
I remember Valencia Grand.
There's a ton of Valencias all over the place here. So so this will be another project. The last project they did was very successful. So what are they saying here? They're planning 518 single-family homes on 188 acres of prime real estate between Atlantic Ave and Boynton Beach Boulevard. But here's the kicker. Their homes are starting at a staggering $1.1 million. So one of the things, every time they do a project, typically GL tries to up their game from the last project. So they just finished another 55 and up. They're finishing a few projects in Boca. They just finished Lotus Palm in Boca. Now they're on the Lotus Edge, and they probably got another year and a half, 2 years left at Lotus Edge, which we've talked about. But those are non-55 and up. They've really spent – the Valencia product is always a 55 and up product here. So they comment on this. We're talking about a 3,600 square foot clubhouse with a dance floor, a fitness center with steam and sauna rooms, a full service restaurant, and even a salon. So this is kind of the new standard for these communities, especially the ones that GL is building. And that's kind of their specialty. They build that like 300 plus single family home product in the area. And again, they're selling these things quick. So 1.1 million for a 55 and up home is a fair amount of money in this area. And the last one started lower than that. And now, again, as they build the next ones, they up their game a little bit, and they usually introduce maybe one new model or something like that. So we'll see where they're going with this every time they do a new community, and they try to make them look more grand, more interesting. They learn from the last jobs they've done on what people want or what the new trends are. So this will be the new trendy 55 and up community in the Palm Beach County market, and I expect they will sell very quickly.
I think they do too.
Yeah.
Let
me actually, just to comment on this, you and I were talking about just 1.1 million. Let's just, so the more recent Valencias, you can see where they're selling right now. Look at this. 2.3 million September sale, 2.19 million, These are bigger Valencia. This is Valencia Grand, right? Mixed in with some Valencia Sound product. So you have just a range. The cheapest thing that's sold, this is Valencia Sound, a little older, 2022 product, right? So you can see the 2020s, 21s, 22s, 24s. You can see as I scroll up, here's the 24 product selling in that almost $2 million range, which is just wild. They're selling for, let's see, 500-600 a square foot, these homes. Anything selling less, high fours for the most part, nothing really much lower than that, maybe a few here and there. But this is what the this is what they're selling for, that not the new stuff, right? So imagine the new stuff when they deliver a year from now and start, so yeah.
I mean, again, just the fact that it's been done too in such a short amount of time. I mean, you're calling them old. It's literally like 2-3 years ago. Man, my mind's been blown. I need a moment.
So Stone 8419 said, guys, remember how many 401ks are worth over $1 million? And they said, maybe not right now with how the market's doing. Yeah, maybe not right at this moment.
And it's like, yeah.
People are
play the long game. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I'm not worried.
Hold on. Ride it out. I think that's impacting our market a little bit right now. But maybe not so much. I think there's a little bit of fear right now in our real estate market, given how the stocks are performing. But
have you started to notice it a little bit?
A little bit, but not really. We're not really feeling it. I mean, the activity has been soft this season in general. So it's just more of the same, really. Yeah. So anyway,
I was gonna say, it's not like you're selling homes in the DMV area right now. That I could understand a little more. Yeah. With the layoffs and everything going on up there. But yeah, I was like, when I look at that and how they've put up so many communities, because these are all obviously 55 and ups, and I'm like, man, have all the baby boomers not retired yet? That's what it feels like.
They're still coming.
Yeah, clearly, man.
But what's happening in South Florida is you need to be a relatively wealthy baby boomer to be here,
right?
For the most part. If you're, for example, if you're buying a single family home, you're spending well over $1 million, right, to get something that's decent in the 55 and ups. Could you buy cheaper stuff in certain areas? Sure. But what we're seeing is a lot of these baby boomers are selling here and relocating to cheaper markets. Well,
that's what I was wondering, because we talked about that last week, and it's like, wow, well, clearly it's not affecting the demand to keep bringing new people in.
You know what's interesting? I just got off a call with a guy. He has a home in Costa Rica and here, and he's trying to decide sell in Costa Rica or sell here. And he just called me and was like, "We're selling here," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't expect that. I thought he was going to sell there and stay here, doctors, whatever, right? Infrastructure. We talked about this, but he was like, "No, you don't understand. I can move to Costa Rica and live in my house." And he's like, "I can have a driver whenever I need." Full-time driver and full-time staff in the house to take care of everything for less than it costs me to live here. And so he's just like, if I need to come back, I'll come back for some medical help. By the way, he's like 90. So this isn't like, so it's not like he's not going to need medical help. He seems okay with it. So
I've never been to Costa Rica here. It's nice.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Well, it's also nice. The Elara in West Palm Beach, or it's expected to be, to the surprise of no one, as we've talked about many, many times on here, West Palm Beach's luxury real estate scene has been heating up for some time. It is it's past lukewarm. It's pretty hot. It's hot to the touch. A major milestone has been reached for the waterfront Elara project as developer Savannah secures a $380 million construction finance. Groundbreaking already underway, and the completion is expected by 2028. Elara is set to redefine high-end living with a wellness-focused twist. All right, Larry, let's talk about Elara.
We've talked about Elara in the past.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah,
we've gone up and down the Intracoastal here, and all these beautiful projects.
but this is interesting. You know when they're securing financing for the most part, unless you're the Mandarin Oriental in Boca Raton. You know when they're securing financing that they're moving along here, they're getting things done. So like usually securing financing, especially at these numbers, suggests that this project's going to be humming and they're going to be delivering this thing. So you know what's interesting about this location is it's a little bit more north of the downtown area, right? Downtown is like here. And so this is more like Northwood Village area, and if you just like look at some of this stuff to the west of this project, it can be rougher. In fact, we own stuff in that area. And so
then I know it's rough.
Yeah. Right. There you go. Exactly. So yeah, this area can be a little interesting. It's like transitioning for sure. And so again, these big developers own most of that water frontage over there. Mm-hmm. And so as one gets done, they just move on to the next one, or they see success there. They watch the math, and then the next guy, Green or whomever, gets after their project that they've been waiting on. So so they kind of time these things as they see things make sense. What's interesting is even with these higher interest rates, we're still building stuff like crazy here, right? Like this has to stop, right? For a moment there, we thought that might happen, right? But these like high-end luxury condos, specifically luxury homes, they're getting bought up so fast, pre-selling before the project's even done. It's wild. It's wild.
Well, you know, and you bring up an interesting point with the area right around there as you get north of downtown being, you know, a little rougher, to put it nicely. Do you think those developers, does it ever happen that they maybe look at the prospect of buying out that land, you know, near it or whatever, to try to elevate the property value of a huge project like this, just, you know, and make it look that much nicer? A rising tide or whatever raises all boats.
I think they're like strategically doing this. These developers are constantly looking at land, buying it way in advance. Like GL Homes, I mean, they've been buying land here, and they've owned this dirt in some areas for 30 years.
Oh,
so I mean, some of this stuff they're horse trading with the county. Like, hey, I got this for you. I can do this if you give me this. And so they're just looking for leverage every which way. And they're thinking, I think they have a long-term outlook, long-term business plan. And, you know, it's funny, even these smaller developers here in South Florida, I try to educate people when they come to the area and say, oh, I'm a builder out wherever from out of state, and I'm going to come here. I'm moving here. I want to be a builder here. I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. You got to be real serious about this, because there's guys, most of these guys are very well off, these individual spec builders, and they got, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 projects going on at one time. They're not building 1 or 2 or 3 a year. They're building 10, 20, 30, 40 at once. And they're buying dirt today that they might build on 3, 4, 5 years from now. And so they're playing a different game than, you know,
right.
the individual builders are playing, that can't afford to own, you know, this type of land for 3 years before they build on it. You're buying something today and trying to build on it today. And that math has to be perfect. Whereas these guys, they're speculating.
Must be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they built a fund. It's a business model, and that's what they do. Right. And so I think these bigger developers play that game, but at a much higher level. Right. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I still think about that spot. We had it pulled up on the map a little earlier, you know, where they're building the Vanderbilt satellite campus, which was previously going to be, you know, that University of Florida satellite campus. And, you know, a fat chunk of it is still Jeff Green's land that he's just going to, you know, just sit on till it's the right time to sell it. I mean, you know, it's like right there. It's nice that you can just kind of let it sit. I mean, you know, let everything go up around, and then, you know, it'll be time.
You know, it's interesting. Yeah. Like if you just look at this is a great map here of like some of the development projects going on. You can see there's a fair amount of them. And if you just poke around, you can see the different developers. Green's on here. State companies, Related, we know well. Starwood is a big boy out of New York. Richmond Group. This guy's a big guy. There's just all these really big players. Related again. Savannah, we just talked about. That's another one. Jeff Green again. So Savannah.
I mean,
again.
they must. Yeah, I mean, they own all that land right along the Intracoastal. That's crazy.
So yeah, so they not only are they building this, what we just talked about, 1919 North Flagler Drive West. They got this here too. Estimated completion date TBD, and this is 16 stories, right? Yeah. This one is the one we were talking about, 26 stories, 445 units, right? Here's another 140 units next door. Here's another 144 units next door. Completion date 2027 by Related. I mean, this is just, West Palm is not stopping. 8 stories, 264 units. This is one of Jeff's. Yep, 326 units, 30 stories, 325 units, 8 stories. That's pretty wide. And some of these, and there's a lot that aren't on here. Like I could tell you right here, this is coming. This is just getting assembled now. There's so many other things. The IRS building, Social Security building. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. The Navy research facility.
The Navy research was. Yeah, there's just so much coming in West Palm. It's just wild. So, we have a bright future here in South Florida, despite the market softening. I think this is, you ride it out. So,
I'll be honest. I feel like, are these conversations you've had with a lot of your clients lately when you're trying to explain the upside?
It depends on the conversation, because sometimes it's like, well, I think the conversation is this. If you're a seller, depending on your current circumstance, like if you're a seller and or what type of asset you have, if you're thinking about selling now and you're not getting the price you want, I wouldn't expect to get that price a year from now, probably. A lot of real estate moves slow. So the softening market, especially in the condo world, it's probably 3 years before you can get a better price again. Right. So are you ready to hold for 3 years, or do you want to rip the Band-Aid? And it's better to make that decision to rip the Band-Aid now. We have clients that have been waiting around for a year trying to decide what they want to do. And they shouldn't have waited. They should have just sold the darn thing, and they would have made out way better. And then they make the decision, but it's too late. Or it's not too late. It's just like, it's late. And so then you end up losing some money. And so, indecision in this moment doesn't work in your favor, I don't think. Whereas 5 years ago, indecision, you got paid for that. You got paid for not, right?
Rewarded for your indecisiveness.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You got paid big time. And I was the one that looked like, saying, hey, sell. And, and you waited a year, and then all of a sudden you made, 50% more, right?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Okay. So, but now I don't think that's the case. Actually, an article just came out when we were about to get on here, talking about how the real estate market, most Wall Street investors believe the real estate market is anywhere between 10 to 35% overvalued right now. So again, it's just like this bad press over and over and over again for the real estate market right now, which sometimes becomes self-fulfilling. So,
I think that's a big part of it. I know. And it's like, I feel like we've been seeing these articles, right? Everybody wants to be the one who called it. That we've been seeing this for like the last 2-3 years, and everyone's like, oh, it's about to go down. Everything's about to crash on. We saw it, some of the talking heads that like putting silly expressions on thumbnails and saying that the world, everything's burning. You got to sell now. It's a fire sale.
Well, check this out. I mean, it's been crazy the past couple of days, but this is Invitation Homes, right? Wonder if the stock ticker is more helpful. Let's see if it shows it here. Of course, it's not going to load. Invitation Homes. This is 1 day. No, let's do 1 year to date. 1 year out. So it's actually performing better now, but it's been coming down off its high for sure. And Invitation Homes owns about 85,000 homes in single family homes in the country. And so, if you compare today to, what was this? Late 24. So you can see just prices, the market thinks values are down substantially since then. Substantially. So that's just like usually when you're talking to private equity guys, they're looking at big big companies that own real estate and looking at what those big companies think value is, or the market thinks value is of those big companies that own real estate. And then they're kind of gauging whether that's on sale or not. And in this case, like right now, prices are coming down in that world. And sometimes that'll lead because real estate trades much slower, right? So it's a little concerning. Yeah, it's a little concerning overall.
Okay, well, let's talk about something that's not concerning, or at least a little more, little lighter. We do have Solomar closing. It tops Broward's weekly condo sales. Their top 10 sales range from 825,000 to 3.5 million. We've talked about Solomar quite a bit. That's the one in Pompano, right?
This is related, I believe, right?
Yes,
Our buddy Steven.
I know we've talked about Solomar.
Brokers closed 152 condo sales totaling 57 million from February 23 to March 2nd. The previous week, brokers closed 101 condo sales totaling 32.6 million. So this is for the top 10 sales. Prices ranged from 825,000 to 3.5 million, as you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, this is great. Unit 701 at Solomar at 1116 North Ocean Boulevard in Pompano took the top spot with a $3.5 million closing. The sale closed at $1,221 per square foot, which is a pretty strong price for the Pompano market for sure.
Yeah.
Now, if you compare that to like a non-waterfront in Boca Raton that's new construction, you probably see similar numbers or a little less depending, right? So you're kind of right in that sweet spot, 1250, 1350. We're working with a developer right now who's working on building a 42 unit project or something close to that in the area. So we've spent a lot of time analyzing the Boca comps and comparing to the Pompano comps, and you can kind of see, Pompano on the water is like 1,000 to 1,250, and Boca not on the water is kind of there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, which is interesting. It's interesting to think about. So if you're thinking about buying luxury condos in the area, we can go at this all day, but just talk about the differences between Pompano and Boca and other cities that have new construction product like that. So, but you're spending $1 million plus easily to get into one of these new condo projects in the area.
Yeah, in Pompano.
Oh, this is a good one here. Let's just let me pull up my screen here so you can see. They're just popping these puppies up all along the coast.
Yeah.
Right. And we've toured or sold in most of these. Yep. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of options. I think you just choose the city and the price point you're looking for when you start shopping for a luxury condo that's newer construction in the area, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think the conclusion of this article is just the luxury condo market, especially the new construction luxury condo market, has softened a little bit, but it's still really healthy. It's like arguably, so while the condo market overall is getting a lot of bad press and the world is ending, these luxury condos, not the case, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Still bucking the trend.
Yeah.
Right. So, speaking of places that aren't right on the water, obviously you still have communities like Wellington that are doing pretty well. Big changes coming to Wellington. This is according to the Lotus Group, which secured a $28.2 million construction loan for the commercial phase of the square and residences at Lotus Wellington. It's a massive mixed-use project that will feature retail, medical offices, restaurants, daycare, and more. So what does that mean for Wellington's real estate market, and how will it shape the future of the area, Larry?
This is we've talked about this one before also, right? So 64-acre project that will transform the west side of State Road 7. We could probably pull it up. You want to pull it up on the map, John. I have the article in front of me, but But this is here's what's planned: commercial space, 60,000 square feet of medical offices, and another 61,400 square feet of retail, including restaurants and out parcels. This is like a really big mixed use project for the area. It's really gonna just improve, I'd say, the quality of living. It's gonna be more interesting to live in Wellington. With this, there's going to be more people, probably more young people, more.
Well, I was going to say, what, more people that aren't here just during the winter and the equestrian season.
Yeah. The residential component is 372 apartments, 100 single family homes, and 72 townhomes. So on top of all that mixed use stuff, you got a lot of resi that supports this. And that's like the sweet spot for these developments too. You're building enough residential living corridors that basically will support or add support to a lot of the commercial and retail space that's being developed. Mm-hmm. So this project, while big and going to take time to execute and a little complicated, is going to have a great outcome. There's a few projects we've watched do that here in South Florida, and they've had a lot of success. There's one in Boca. I'm trying to think of the name that I've just heard most people are super happy with living in the community and then everything that it has to offer in the area. And most of those people that I've interacted with are the younger population. Again, to your point, that are living here year round, working, excited to be here, and it's a good place for them to start in those apartments and just walk outside and get their lunch when they're maybe working remote or in the evening or whatever. So they said the timeline is the first phase is going to include the ground floor retail for the multifamily section, and it's set to be complete this year. So they're rocking and rolling. They're moving along on this. So
yeah, that's wow. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like Wellington's one of those ones that still does have, at least compared to, all the places we're talking about elsewhere in Palm Beach County, has enough land to work with still to, kind of take advantage of these massive, mixed use projects.
Yep. And they've already executed. The first part of this article states they just landed another $28.2 million construction loan for the project. So again, they're off to the races here. When you see the loan get paid out or secured, they're going to start working. So dirt's going to be moving. It's already moving, but and this is going up, and so this is exciting. It's good to see projects get executed on and not just sit there in the
right, because there's so many that we've talked about, like in Lake Worth and other places that that you see them and wow, this looks like a great idea. Oh, it has been sitting there since 2019. It's like it's been approved, but it's just sitting there.
Boynton is the king of that, right? Like they're like there's probably 12 projects that were like, this is going to be awesome, and it's been 10 years. Right. So
you brought up an interesting point though, just with snowbirds and, trying to get more people, younger people there. How much focus do you think there is from these developers in trying to create an environment that keeps people here year round?
Yeah, I think on some level it depends. It depends on the project, right? Mm-hmm. Some of these developers are in and out, right? They build it and they go. They sell it and they're out, right? So I think it benefits them that they create an environment where people stay, but also if people are paying the number and they're not sticking around, they're being snowbirds, I don't think it matters. Like I would bet a lot of the people that are paying $3.5 million for a luxury condo aren't spending their full time in Pompano Beach, right? Yeah. That we just talked about, or even $1.5 million or $2 million. In fact, that's the allure of the condo product itself. I know a number of people that can afford houses and have houses elsewhere that just want the condo or are selling their homes just to buy a condo. We got one right now, a client, we just secured a deal with him for a condo, and he's moving right down the street. I mean, literally right up the street to a new condo. And he's paying basically the same number. So he's not like pocketing any cash. He's just gonna live in a place where he can close the door and travel to Finland, travel to elsewhere. And he's a business owner locally here in Boca. And so like that's the allure of these luxury condos. You get the security, you get the amenities, and it almost feels like you're in a home sometimes. Maybe not always, but you get the space, you get the taller ceilings, right? All that. And so yeah, I don't know. It depends. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. That kind of helps paint the picture a little better of, typical condo owners that, be it if they're the retirement age or not. I mean, that certainly makes a lot more sense.
What's also interesting about this project is they spent a lot of money thus far. They spent about $90 million getting approvals, securing the land.
Right, that's just to get the land, for crying out loud.
In 23, they get a $44 million loan from Bluefin Financial that helped refinance a previous mortgage and fund the early site prep. And now they've just secured another $28.2 million loan to continue the project. So they're staggering this. Let's see. Last year, Lotus sold 52 acres to Lennar for a $54 million purchase price, allowing the home builder to construct 100 single-family homes and 72 townhouses. So this is like a joint project where everybody's getting in it. So Lennar's got their hand in this too, which is pretty cool. So,
yeah, it's funny because the way you explain that one, a lot of this feels like high risk, high reward, but yet when we're talking about all these other projects that are doing so well that they keep going on and on with them, it seems like it's, that they've become so good at it that it's like, this is easy. Yeah, we'll just build another one and then we'll build another one.
Well, you notice here that every loan and how these lenders do it, they're diversifying their risk and their exposure. They want more than one lender or more than one party giving that money. So like Bluefin Financial, for whatever reason, didn't come back in this project. And one of the reasons might be like, hey, we got a lot of exposure to this project already. We'll go lend our money elsewhere, because banks by default are trying to be very risk adverse. They're not the ones building stuff. That's much more risky. So, diversification of where they're allocating capital for on the loan side is a thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could always just kind of give another loan to Penn, Florida and the Mandarin Oriental. I mean, I'm sure, that's fine.
Yeah, just keep giving those guys money.
It's still not that, man. I laugh every time I drive by that place. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, it looks like they don't do anything.
Well, I'll give them this. I saw the other day, there's some stucco work being done on some of it. So I'm like, oh, wow, there's stucco on this building now. Now it's not just this concrete behemoth. There's actually stucco on the side. Like, all right. So
it's like,
I don't know.
It's like you're clapping for a little kid that just finished a race or something.
It's so funny.
Oh,
one of the developers I work with was curious about the project, and they're based in out of the area. So they were like, hey, when you drive by, give me an update on how they're doing, because what we're hearing is that they're going to finish the project. And that's what he was telling me. And I was like, okay, I'll drive by. And that's when I saw the stucco work. He's like, we're told they're doing work right now, and we don't know if we believe them. So I'm just like, okay. So we drive by and they're working. They're working. And for whoever doesn't know about the Mandarin, you can go look it up. We've talked about this.
We have plenty of videos that discuss the topic.
Yeah, you can check it out. Anyway, they're struggling to finish, and it's been like 10 years. So, but it's an awesome project. It's just they're not getting it done. So.
Oh yeah, no, it looked nice. I mean, if it had been done a couple of years ago, then it'd be like, wow, this is great. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave that dead horse alone. Do we want to talk about real estate agent commissions shifting since the NAR settlement, or do you think we're about to save that for next week?
Let's talk about this one, and then we'll wrap it up. How about that?
All right, that's fine with me.
One might be a little bit of
your wheelhouse.
Right? Yeah, and we'll go through this. I mean, I know this so well that I didn't really read this specific article that we're talking about, but this is an article on how real estate commissions have changed since the NAR settlement, and so there's been some interesting transformations here in this market. And so how I've been describing it, and I'm sure others have described it a little differently, is there's two core components or core things that have changed in practice for us as real estate agents and brokers. The first one is, if you are a buyer's agent and you want to go work with a buyer, or the buyer wants to work with you and the buyer says, hey, I want to see all these homes, you can say, okay, well, great. We need to sign a buyer's agency agreement in order for me to be compliant with the new rules and show you property. And that buyer's agency agreement can be created a few different ways. But in most cases, at least the realtors who have a fair amount of experience, skill, and are in demand in our market will typically send out a buyer's agency agreement to the buyer after they've maybe done the interview or met with them and in person or online. And that buyer's agency agreement will typically have some term. A lot of them say 6 months that you'll be working with this buyer's agent. And the big piece here is there could be a whole bunch of different language, but there's a standard one in our area that pretty much most people use. And if a buyer, and what it says is the buyer will compensate the buyer's agent X percent. A lot of times that percentage is 3% in there. The buyer will compensate the buyer's agent 3% if they close on a home, if the seller does not pay that commission for the buyer, right? And so that's the new rule. You have to have one of these buyer's agency agreements signed, and most of them say something like that. Most of them have a term of, 5 months, 4 months, 6 months, somewhere in that space. And most of them say the buyer will compensate the buyer's agent 3% if the seller doesn't do it. Now, we'll get into how that all plays out in practice. Now, the other core change is a listing agent and a seller can't publish or put in writing in public places, basically, that they're willing to compensate a buyer's agent a certain percentage, right? We can talk about all the reasons why this is the rules. This is how it goes, right? So we used to be able to say, hey, as a listing agent, we'd put in the MLS, hey, we'll pay a buyer's agent 2.5%, 3%, whatever it is, you see it right there on the MLS. No longer can you do that. No longer can you do that in your marketing. And I'm sure we can get into the weeds on that too. So we'll just leave it at that. So what happens is buyer's agents either call up or text or request via email, hey, how much are you compensating a buyer's agent if you're the listing agent? How much is the seller willing to pay? And you respond. So now there's this like added element there. Sometimes they don't ask at all and they just go show the property, right? And so when they show the property and the buyer likes it, they submit an offer. And with that offer comes a commission agreement now, right? Now that's new, right? And with that commission agreement, you get the contract. And so now a seller and a buyer are negotiating both the terms of the purchase plus the terms of who pays who, buyer's agent, seller's agent in this transaction, right? And so it adds a little bit of complication to the negotiation. Sometimes it's a little convoluted because of that. And so typically what's happening now is the buyer's agent is asking for 3%. That's what's happening. Okay. The market's different now. Like, you used to be able to say, hey, we're offering 2.5%, and a buyer's agent would just usually take that. But I'd say 25 to 50% of the time, buyer's agent is asking for 3% in that commission agreement, in that offer they sent over. And as a listing agent might say, hey, the seller's only offering 2.5%. They say, no, we want 3%. And then the listing agent says, okay, well, I'll present it to the seller. They present it to the seller, and because there's not a bunch of other offers in their face, if that buyer's offer is good, then then a lot of times the seller chooses to pay that 3% commission to the buyer's agent. And
so truly a buyer's market.
It's a buyer's market. The market's changed. And so commissions really fluctuate based on market conditions, not these rules that were created by whomever before or after, right? It just, this is not what it was. Commissions were always negotiable. And they still are, and that's the whole point of this, like these new rules, But long story short, the punchline here is commissions on average have gone up. So sellers have been paying more commissions. Consumers have been paying a higher commission rate now than prior to the rules being changed. Why? Because of the new structure. So I think there was a little bit of a confusing message put out by the media about how buyers are going to pay the buyer's agent's commission and the sellers aren't going to have to pay it anymore. 70 transactions that I've listed since that rule change, not one of them has a buyer paid the buyer's agent's commission. Not one. And close to half, if not 35% probably, fair number, 35% of them, the seller paid more than what they wanted to pay a buyer. They paid, they may have said they wanted to pay the buyer's agent 25%. 2.5%, and they paid 3% commission. So things have changed, and that's the whole thing in a nutshell there.
So like you said, though, I mean, market conditions are really dictating all of this.
Yeah, because think about this. If the market was hot like it was in 21, right? Mm-hmm. The same thing would be happening that was happening in 21, which is a lot of buyers were coming direct to the listing agents trying to win the deals, right? And thus the seller might pay less commission because you put a property on the market and you sold it by the end of the next week. Now the average days on market is like 90. It's at record highs for the past 15 years, right? So now it's not like that. So you get one buyer here or there that might do this deal, and they can control the terms, and so can the buyer's agent. So so it's a unique environment that we're in now. It's not unique; it's just new for recent years. So it's softer than it's been in a long time. So.
All right.
And with that being said,
I was going to say, with that being said, I guess we're just about done here for this edition. On behalf of Larry Mastropieri, broker owner of the Mastropieri Group, I'm John Laws of Discover South Florida. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
See you guys.